Hey YouTube, so we're going to be taking the Jeep out tomorrow, and I wanted to just do a little video of my Jeep first to start with, just so you could see it. You're just like behind me or whatever. So we go out with it all the time, but I haven't really done like a little intro on my Jeep, so I'll do that. So this is my Jeep right here. It is a 2016 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, and the Rubicon is just like the Rubicon Hard Rock. The Rubicon is a off-road trim package. The thing that makes like and you can see it's like it says Rubicon like right here. The thing that makes a Rubicon a little bit different, if you don't know anything about these Jeeps, is like these buttons right here specifically. So these two red buttons right here, one of them is an axle lock. It means that it has front and rear lockers, so the front wheels can get locked together. So then, if one spins, like the other one will, take over for you. And then it has a sway bar disconnect, which means that these front wheels here can articulate more with just like the push of a button. However, you'll see I actually don't use that button. I have something else that I've done because that button is notoriously known to have problems. The tire size is actually 40s, so pretty big tires, not stock by any means. The stock tire size on these is probably more like right here maybe, in height. Big, huge difference on the tires. Those are like El Cheapo fenders. I think I got these Black Friday for maybe like 150 bucks or something like that. So it has a hard rock trim level, which means it has like steel bumpers and everything, and those are the factory steel bumpers on it. This is additional. The light is additional. The Warn Xeon winch is additional also. The red is the Maximus winch brackets and stuff. The other thing kind of different on Rubicons, if you can see it, is this plate right here. You can also see that I have maybe a little bit of damage, but I've got a different, little different drag link. I have a little different, that's a Riddler plate on the front and the back also. So, like right in here, and you can't really even see it, I have my hand down there, that's where the motor is that drives that button that disconnects the sway bars. So these are the sway bars right here, these metal things. Anyway, the motor is normally in there. I took the motor out, and I have like a little knob that you turn to disconnect it. It always works. The electronic one, like, it works initially when you have it, and then after a couple years, if you use it a lot, it doesn't work anymore. You can internet like Rubicon sway bar disconnect, and you'll see that like it's very, very common failure point. People they like it at first, and then they hate it. So there is the rear, and you can see like how big the tire is. I mean, as in like it literally is covering like all the way to the top of the window. It's kind of ridiculous. The bar back here that's holding the tire on is an AEV. AEV is a manufacturer of the bumpers. I did say the bumpers are factory bumpers, but AEV manufactures it for Jeep, so that's why it fits on there perfectly, because I just happened to buy that on. That's some of my recovery gear. I've got a bunch of recovery gear. This is for sand. There's a high lift jack underneath there. That's my long CB antenna that attaches on for when we're out on the trail. I put the little shorty on when I'm in the city. I got some rigid lights and stuff, not so important. I use those when I set up camp and stuff like that. There's a back toolbox, a bunch of stuff. You can always use like a sledge. Floor jack is really actually helpful to have. I got this at Topless for Tatas, and the vendor specifically is JMG Designs. This is like awesome. It's this kind of square thing that is mounted back here, and you can get all these little bags that just attach onto the back. You can obviously have saws, all the things that you normally keep handy, like a first aid kit, a knife, whatever. You can just throw it there, and it's always there. Wow. I also have a skid plate that normally is here, but apparently I must have taken it off because we were pulling a trailer on our way home the other day. The last time I used it. So we'll put the skid plate back on. I'm going to crawl underneath the Jeep so you can see some other things. So, probably very hard to see. The other thing that's different about mine is you can see there's a big metal plate here, and there's a big metal plate here. and there's a big metal plate there. So pretty much like the entire bottom of the Jeep is all metal plates. So this is the rock hard armor system that they have for the bottom of the Jeep. So then, you know, if you do hit a rock or something like that, you don't mess up the Jeep. Instead, you have this like nice and heavy armor protecting the Jeep. And there is even armor over the rear pumpkin, also the differential. That's a skid plate there. I don't remember the brand. And I even have, like, you know, a replacement skid plate for the evap system. So basically everything underneath is metal. That is not normal for Rubicons, unless they go off-road and you happen to buy all the aftermarket stuff. The inside is pretty standard. So I've got a 67 Designs mount up here. It's these arms. And they have these little knobs and stuff, and you can like adjust them so you can, you know, you can put your phone there. We'll have the camera attached here. So, you know, you can look out the window or whatever when we're driving around. You know, CB radio. The other thing I added was down here, there's these rocker panels for turning on lights and stuff like that. And then this is the brake controller for the trailer. Obviously, you know, we pull a trailer when we are not off-roading and we're just enjoying life. And so you have to have a brake controller. Got the seat down right now. So the seat's obviously down. But you can see that the trunk has this tuffy wrapped around it. It's this big metal box. Basically, it makes it so there's no way to get into the trunk area at all, except for opening the back up. So even when I have the top down, have the top off, I have this nice locked area, huge area, where I keep all my tools and everything, and nobody can get to it. I don't really worry about the high lift jack. You know, it's actually bolted to the inside. It's pretty hard to take. But people have those high lift jacks mounted outside their vehicles, and for the most part, they're really heavy and nobody ever uses them. Like, it's almost like, why do I have one? I think I've used it once or twice on the trail. It's so rare to ever need that high lift jack. I carry a floor jack. It's so much easier to use a floor jack than a high lift jack. And the difference between like a high lift jack, for those like not like technical, is like the high lift jack would go to like the bumper here or whatever, and then you try to lift the Jeep, and the problem is, if you lift the Jeep up from like the bumper or frame spot like that, the suspension has to extend out. The suspension being, you know, like the springs and the shocks and stuff. So even if you like lift the back of the Jeep up like say 2 feet, the wheel may not even come off the ground, because all you're doing is you're just kind of like decompressing the spring. But if you get like a floor jack or a scissor jack or one of the other kinds of jacks, it's like more like for, you know, lifting things off the ground. Instead, you put it underneath the axle itself. And even if you lift the vehicle up like say an inch or two, the wheel comes up an inch or two, because you're not having to like completely flex out the suspension. So yeah, sometimes you need those things, high lift jacks and stuff, but for the most part, you know, I get by with the winch and the floor jack more often than not. So you know, we're gonna take this out tomorrow, and we'll have some fun with it. We're just doing greens tomorrow, so you know, don't, you know, think that we're going to be doing anything like super crazy. For the 40s, some people ask like, what do you have to do to get the 40s on? So sometimes you have to trim this right here. I didn't have to trim it on mine. It doesn't touch, but for some people it does. So the rock rails right here, you have to trim these, because normally they would be actually touching the wheel. For whatever reason, Jeep always includes like really super long ones. We also had to trim this. This normally comes out like more like in here. Then on the back wheels, if you look around, like, so this area right here, you can see that it kind of is dented in. That's because we actually dented it in. Normally this comes out and would be touching the wheel also, and that's you know, just something that doesn't really matter. We just knocked it in, and then we covered it up with sealant, and it has like clear paint on it. I haven't put any white paint on it yet, but I will. The rock rail had to get trimmed also. For whatever reason, you have like the wheel well here, and the rock rail goes in the wheel well. If you look at a factory Jeep, you'll see that all the time. I have no idea why Chrysler or whoever decides to make it so the rock rail goes into the wheel well. It's kind of stupid on their part. We did trim this a little bit, but you can see that the fender there is there. Then another thing that you obviously have to change is in here. There you can see yeah, I'm losing the words. So anyway, the bump stop, the square is a lower bump stop on the rear, and then the big red thing is the upper on the bump stop. That controls how much the wheel can go up and down. and that's a humongous bump stop. Normally the bump stop is only about 1 inch tall, and that bump stock is about 3 inches tall on the bottom. And normally the top one is a real kind of white squishy material, and that one's a red one that doesn't really squish at all. What that means is it makes it so this tire will only go up to like right here. It won't actually hit the top. And obviously if you have smaller tires, it can go up and down more. The same applies for the front. I don't know if I can get in here, but on the front you can see that I have a red bump stop on the front. The red one has much more space, so I didn't have to really do a whole lot. Sometimes people have to add the bottom ones. So that's an introduction to my Jeep. We will take it out tomorrow and have some fun with it. And if you have any questions about Jeeping or Jeeps or anything, feel free to leave a comment below. Please like and subscribe. So that's like the intro to our Jeep. And if you have any questions about Jeeps in general, let me know, and I will try to answer them for you.